Coming up on Market to Market. Torrential rains soak the Midwest, pushing rivers and streams well beyond their banks. New crop futures prices rally as some farmers wonder if they'll ever finish spring planting. And horticultural history buffs work to preserve America's agricultural heritage by saving seed. Those stories and market analysis with John Roach next.
Funding for Market to Market is provided by DuPont Pioneer, working with growers to match the right product to the right acre. Science with service, delivering success. This is the Friday, May 31 edition of Market to Market, the weekly journal of rural America.
Hello, I'm Mike Pearson. Economists pay close attention to consumers because their spending accounts for about 70% of U.S. economic activity. This week, public and private reports were mixed in their assessment of consumer sentiment. The Conference Board, a private research group, announced Tuesday that its Consumer Confidence Index rose more than 7 points in May to a 5-year high of 76.2. That development and news that U.S. home prices rose more than 10% year over year in March sparked a rally on Wall Street, where the Dow Jones Industrial Average recorded its 25th record high this year. One day later, however, the Dow gave back all of the gain as investors pared holdings of high dividend stocks. And on Friday, the market was pressured again when the Commerce Department reported that consumer spending fell 0.2 of a point in April to post its first decline in nearly a year. Analysts noted that the decline was due in part to cheaper prices at the pump and slumping energy demand due to warmer weather. But Mother Nature is best analyzed in retrospect. A year ago, farmers and ranchers sweltered through the worst drought in half a century. But so far this spring, the problem has been too much moisture. And once again this week, severe thunderstorms roared across the grain belt.
By just saying that whenever I come to an area that's been devastated by some natural disaster like this, I want to make sure everybody understands I'm speaking on behalf of the entire country. Everywhere. Fellow Americans are praying with you, they're thinking about you, and they want to help.
Even as the president surveyed the wreckage from last week's devastating tornado in Moore, Oklahoma, the bell had already rung for the next round of severe weather. Tornadoes hit the southern plains for the second time in as many weeks. At least 3 twisters touched down in Oklahoma Thursday, and 2 more struck Arkansas. No one was killed, but 9 people were injured as the powerful storm system moved through the area. North central Kansas was hit by 150 to 175 mile-per-hour winds at the beginning of the week, kicking up another twister, which registered between an EF3 and an EF4. Heavy rains over the Memorial Day weekend blanketed areas of the Midwest and southern plains, triggering flash floods. In south-central Texas near San Antonio, thunderstorms produced enough rain to fill dry riverbeds that went well beyond their banks. Throughout the week, flash flood watches were the order of the day as water levels rose throughout the Midwest and South. Heavy rainfall in parts of Illinois, Missouri, Minnesota, and Wisconsin have ranged from 6 to 12 inches over the past 30 days. In Iowa, the state climatologist called the spring of 2013 the wettest on record for the Hawkeye State, with an average of 16.4 inches of rainfall. That is the most combined precipitation for March, April, and May since record-keeping began in 1892. Excessive rain postponed planting in several states this spring. The weekly USDA crop report revealed 86% of America's corn has been planted, but soggy conditions will delay farmers from sowing the additional 14%. At this time last year, 99% of the corn had been planted. Only 44% of the soybean crop is in the ground, more than 65% below this time a year ago. With so much damage and uncertainty due to inclement weather, the Agriculture Department is shifting efforts from drought relief to flood relief.
We have had at least one county in Missouri that has requested authorization for the Emergency Conservation Program, which is a program in which we offer cost-sharing assistance to assist farmers to remove debris from their farmland, repair fences, also to repair conservation structures in the areas. One of our main mission is to provide a safety net for these producers. You never know what Mother Nature is going to do. If you take last year, we had a tremendous drought in that area. A big difference from last year is to this year, where we've had significant rainfall that has caused flooding.
Weekend forecasts include falling temperatures as a cold front moves across the region. While warmer temperatures are expected at the beginning of next week, much of the grain belt is likely to see more rain in the week ahead.
Wheat prices declined Thursday after a genetically modified variety was found in an Oregon field. While genetically modified wheat has not been approved by the Agriculture Department, Monsanto was authorized to field test glyphosate-resistant wheat in 16 states between 1998 and 2005. Shortly after USDA confirmed its discovery of the unapproved strain Wednesday, Japan halted imports of some types of U.S. wheat, and the European Union urged its members to test shipments originating in America. Though a relatively new innovation, historically speaking, genetically engineered crops have gained widespread acceptance in the United States. But some growers choose to plant seeds that were sown decades and even centuries ago. A case in point can be found near Decorah, Iowa, where the Seed Savers Exchange collects thousands of heirloom vegetables, herbs, and plants, making it one of the largest non-governmental seed banks in the United States. And as producer Judy Blank discovered last year, the nonprofit organization preserves America's rich agricultural heritage by saving seed.
Sunlight filters through verdant gardens at Heritage Farm, headquarters for Seed Savers Exchange. The thousands of heirloom varieties in the Seed Savers collection have been passed down through generations of farmers and gardeners and are valued for their genetic diversity and adaptability to pressures such as climate change. Seed Savers' mission is to preserve and share this agricultural heritage with its membership and the public all over the world.
There's a lot of moving parts to Seed Savers, and all of them kind of come back in some way to our core mission, which is to maintain heirloom seeds, distribute them, educate the public about genetic diversity. Why is it important?
Many of the heirloom varieties in the collection are donated by people who become members of the organization and share seeds that have been grown by their families for generations. The handing down of seed is what inspired Diane Ott Whaley to co-found Seed Savers Exchange in 1975 with her former husband, Kent Whaley. Diane's grandfather, Baptist John Ott, gave her morning glory seeds that were brought to America by his ancestors.
I'm holding this handful of seed that I'm linking back to ancestors in another country that I never knew about or thought about. I felt the magic in that seed was bringing my family into my life.
In 1986, Seed Savers Exchange expanded to the 890-acre Heritage Farm, where Grandpa Ott's morning glory continues to flourish.
And now when you think about the power of that little seed, we have 13,000 people that are members, we have 24,000 different accessions of seed in our collection, and we've grown into this beautiful, beautiful paradise, and all from a little seed.
The gardens are living classrooms that are open to the public. Seed Savers offers various educational resources, including online webinars. While its primary purpose is to educate the public about heirloom plants, the history of the seed plays a vital role in Seed Savers' goal of preserving America's garden heritage.
You have the Phoebe Vincent heirloom. Our seed historian was able to get the backstory on that. By emailing the great-great-granddaughter, we were able to get more of a story and background to the bean, as well as give the seed back to the family because they had lost it.
The organization also helps the public learn about seed-saving techniques that are no longer commonly known.
Heirloom seeds are seeds that are open pollinated, meaning that the seeds can be saved from the fruit, grown out the following year, and you're still going to have fruit that's true to the parent type. Heirloom comes in the sense that it's been handed down generationally. Most farming in America prior to World War II involved open pollinated seeds, where the farmers would select seeds from the harvest to be their seed stock for the following spring.
The Millennium Seed Bank Partnership estimates between 60,000 to 100,000 horticultural varieties, about 25% of all plants, are in danger of becoming extinct. Seed Savers founders believe genetic material in open pollinated seeds could be critical to our future survival.
In many cases, they've had a chance to adapt to many climate conditions and over the years have turned into a very strong plant. And I just think that who knows what we're going to need for plant breeding in the future.
100 years from now, we might not know what seeds in our seed bank are best adaptable to the conditions that might exist, say, here in Decorah, Iowa.
The historic apple orchard at Seed Savers Exchange displays hundreds of varieties of 19th century apple trees. But Seed Savers says those represent only a small fraction of apple varieties that have survived.
Our orchard manager at Seed Savers, his name is Dan Bussey, and he's also an apple historian, and he's working on a book. He's identified more than 20,000 different named varieties of apples that were grown in North America between 1629 and the year 2000. Over 20,000 varieties. As of 2000, he estimates that we're down to about 4,000 varieties.
Seed Savers' goal is to offer apple trees for sale in his catalog, which already features hundreds of heirloom vegetables, flowers, and herbs.
So Seed Savers is probably most known for their commercial catalog, and that has about 600 varieties in it. They've kind of been standout all-star varieties that we want to make available to the general public, and that's our fundraising mechanism.
We sell seed throughout the world, primarily in the United States. We probably had a customer base this year of around probably 40 to 50,000 customers.
In addition to its catalog, Seed Savers also publishes a yearbook to facilitate the actual exchange of seed between some of its more than 13,000 members.
And that person-to-person exchange is really the most resilient system we can have for our seeds. That means that they're out there, it means that they're getting used, and it means that they're relevant and important to people.
The organization also sells wholesale to larger growers and in bulk to other seed companies. More than 500 garden centers across the nation carry Seed Savers Exchange retail seed racks.
I'd say more than 50% of the revenue that we generate each year comes from seed sales of individual packets.
Seed Savers contracts with various growers to help produce its retail products. Mike Bollinger and Katie Prohaska of River Root Farm in Northeast Iowa help grow garlic with a little assistance from their 2 young children.
We'll sell about 50 to 60,000 heads of garlic for seed this year, and they're part of that effort.
They're providing the seed stock to us, and then we're growing it out. We're doing all the processing and bringing it back to them as a finished product.
Mike and Katie also provide certified organic seedlings for sale at the Seed Savers Exchange Visitor Center at Heritage Farm. Like plants that originally began with a single seed, the exchange has grown over the past 40 years. Its vast seed collection is carefully maintained according to international gene bank protocols.
This is the freezer vault, the long-term storage area at Heritage Farm.
But the history also is preserved in literary form. Hundreds of letters accompanying seed donations are carefully studied and documented. Each year, more than 20,000 visitors are drawn to Heritage Farm, where the work to preserve agricultural diversity has expanded to include livestock, such as rare, ancient White Park cattle. And while Seed Savers Exchange is Aunt Whaley's top priority, she has found time to write about her passion for preserving botanical history. Her book, Gathering, Memoir of a Seed Saver, is a story of the exchange.
I think when we started, we felt the urgency too, because when a seed is gone, it's gone and it's irreplaceable.
For Market to Market, I'm Judy Blank.
Next, the Market to Market report.
Grain prices trended higher this week as old crop futures contracts posted modest gains, while weather uncertainties fueled bigger rallies for crops that are yet to be grown and in some cases haven't even been planted. For the week, July wheat gained 8 cents, while the nearby corn contract moved a nickel higher. Old crop soybeans also rallied as the July contract gained 33 cents. Nearby meal prices followed suit with an upward move of $19 per ton. In the softs, cotton remained under pressure again this week as the December contract lost $1.75 per hundredweight. In the dairy market, June Class 3 milk declined by 25 cents, while the July contract was off a dime. Over in livestock, prices were mixed, but the big news this week was that Smithfield Foods, one of the leading pork producers in America, has accepted a $4.7 billion purchase offer from China's top meat processor. If approved by federal regulators and Smithfield shareholders, the deal would be the largest takeover of a U.S. company by a Chinese firm ever recorded. Against that backdrop, August cattle contract, gained $1.23. August feeders lost 23 cents, and the July lean hog contract gained 55 cents. In the financials, the euro gained 53 basis points against the dollar. Crude oil declined by more than $2 per barrel. COMEX gold advanced by almost $10 per ounce, and the Goldman Sachs Commodity Index moved nearly 10 points lower to settle at 625.10. Here now to lend us his insight on these and other trends is our senior market analyst, John Roach. John, welcome back.
Thanks, Mike. Nice to be here.
We did have a nice upward move today, this week, pretty much across the board in grains. As we take a look at wheat, what was the main factor in wheat this week?
We've seen a real pickup in the export demand for wheat. Export sales this week were bigger than what people anticipated, and we've seen several weeks actually of good wheat volumes. We've started into harvest, and so some of the users that have been waiting to buy some wheat finally have been willing to step in and accumulate some wheat. But as the harvest is progressing, we're actually seeing basis levels start to give way.
And that's just a function of more supply being on the market. Probably expect basis to continue to weaken as harvest progresses?
We would think so. We would think that as long as the crops continue to run a little better than people anticipated, which is what we're hearing, that we would anticipate that the basis levels might stay a little softer in here. Users have waited for the new crop. I think we're seeing the same thing across in corn and soybeans. Everybody's waiting until the supplies are more available, and as they became more available in wheat, we've seen that export demand pick up.
Now, of course, the news this week about the genetically modified wheat that was found in Oregon, is that going to have, in your opinion, a long-term impact over the summer on wheat demand internationally, or is it just a bump in the road that producers should expect to just sort of overcome here rather quickly?
Well, we would hope it's a bump in the road, but unfortunately, what it's going to require is it's going to require more testing of white wheat coming out of the Northwest, and until the confidence is there that our supplies are relatively clean, it'll slow down that kind of wheat business. Surprisingly, it didn't really have much impact as far as the futures markets were concerned.
Okay, all right. Just demand is still there, regardless of what people may be finding.
Well, it's going to slow it down. I mean, they're going to Japan backed away actually, and we'll see some other countries that'll be testing a lot more thoroughly. I mean, that concern is still there, but we think it's a limited situation.
Okay. Now, as we take a look at corn, we did see another rise this week in old crop corn prices. Can you talk to us a little bit about what's driving that? Is it just limited supplies? Is that where we're seeing this rise come in?
Old crop corn supplies are extremely tight. When we look at the stocks and all positions report that was given to us as of March 1st, our supplies are so tight that we have to cut usage substantially as we move through these summer months. And so the need here to keep a high price, to slow down the consumption, to keep strong basis, we think that's going to really be prevalent all the way through. And we notice, particularly when we bring a contract into expiration, that when the futures become equivalent to cash, at that point we think there's going to be another spike in this July corn market.
So your advice to producers sitting still on old crop corn, wait for expiration to get a little closer, do you think?
Well, we think at this time of the year, when you're looking in the month of May and you have a weather problem going on, and you have very tight supplies, and you have a big crop coming out of South America, their second crop corn is going to be is being increased on a weekly basis almost. So we think that it makes sense to make sales when the market stages a rally and comes up at a little bit of a cyclical top, and in fact, as we had one of those this week, and so we advised our readers to make some sales on corn this week. But we also think we'll have 2 or maybe 3 more of those during this summer period. We think it's going to be a very volatile market, particularly in old crop corn, as we go all the way through this summer. The one thing we know for sure is we have delayed the harvest date or the beginning of harvest on corn because of the weather conditions we have. And so we think that the supplies are going to be very, very tight prior to coming into harvest. And so we think a volatile market with several peaks, but we think the one we had this week was one worth selling a piece of the inventory in the bin.
Certainly, especially when looking at the favorable basis that a lot of producers are seeing in their
Absolutely, absolutely. The one thing we know is that that the basis values can cave away rather rapidly, as we saw happen in soybeans this week.
And now, before we talk soybeans, can you give us your thoughts on new crop beans? What should producers be doing? What would be your advice to them as they look at this wet weather? 86% of the corn planted here coming into June 1st. How should they best be approaching marketing of their new crop corn?
New crop corn, we think, needs to be sold on these peaks as well. And so we think that producers need to take a look at, their own situation from a standpoint of what they have planted and what they feel comfortable selling. And we thought this week was an opportunity to sell an increment, again, anticipating we would average that together with sales we made earlier and sales that we plan on making yet later on during the summer months. We think we've got we think we had a selling opportunity now. We'll think we'll have maybe two, maybe three more, and we just kind of like to average on each one of those peaks. We're not sure which one's going to be the highest one. It'll be the one when the weather is most worrisome, and heaven only knows it's very worrisome right now. So this week's market peak we think was worth making some sales on.
Presented some good opportunities.
It did.
All right. Now, as we look at soybeans, again, we're still dealing with that tight crop situation in the old crop beans. Advice to producers, and as you mentioned, basis levels can be rather precarious. Talk to us a little bit about what we saw in these last 2 weeks in old crop beans.
We saw the old crop bean market finally attract the speculative demand. The prices roared higher. Basis levels had been very strong, and the combination of a higher futures market and the strong basis values brought the price up to levels where farmers were willing to sell. We had a sell signal that we issued, and we think that it made some sense to make some sales of old crop beans, again with the idea of making some further sales on further rallies or on the next rally. And we expect a couple more and maybe as many as 3 more before the summer's out.
And now with that in mind, as we look at what's happened these last 2 weeks, has the opportunity to sell into this existing rally passed us by? Should producers this weekend sitting on beans plan to hold until we get to that next rally, do you think?
I think if you didn't make any sales here during this last half of May, if you've passed on all the strength, I think that's, I would suggest you want to take another look at that, because sales at the end of May or first part of June historically are very, very good on soybeans. And so we're making a sale when we know supplies are tight. We know the weather is worrisome. We've had a round of speculative demand. Now, you may want to not fix the basis on anything you were to sell, say, Monday, but as far as the futures price is concerned, we think these are some good prices to take advantage of. Again, planning to average with a couple more sales this summer.
All right, and same advice for new crop. Just continue to plan your sales when we hit these rallies.
Exactly. The market will cycle back and forth. There's going to be a lot of volatility, and on the upper side of the cycle, go ahead and make some sales. If you think that maybe you're getting too far sold, when we get a setback in the market, there'll be opportunities to maybe buy call options to cover your needs. Other people will look at new crop put options on the strength. It's the strength when they want price protection, but they're afraid to commit bushels. So you can utilize the tools in Chicago to aid the cash marketing that you're doing.
All right, depending on what's going to work best for your situation.
Exactly.
Now, as we take a look at livestock, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, we did have the big news, particularly for hogs, about the Smithfield buyout by the Chinese firm. Against that backdrop, what impact is that going to have, in your opinion, long-term over the hog industry in America and cash hog prices in particular? Is that going to affect us very much?
I would think it will help. I would think it would give make it an easier situation to export pork into the Chinese market. Now you have the two ends of the company, one located here and one located there, and so it certainly would make it easier to move into the Chinese market with U.S. pork. I think the real advantage, however, is the branding opportunity. Pork is the number one meat in China. Their pork consumption is way larger than what our pork consumption is, and but they've had problems with food quality and adulterated food and so forth, and so purchasing a brand, an American brand that is very well respected in this country, will be very well respected in China, and that's probably the biggest opportunity in this transaction. Is that now you have a branded product that you can sell in China, and maybe even some Chinese pork under that brand, but that branding opportunity is probably the biggest advantage, and I think that helps the U.S. pork market as well as helping the Chinese pork market.
It gives us sort of a trusted gateway into that market.
Absolutely. I mean, we're familiar with other branded products. I mean, from McDonald's to Kentucky Fried Chicken to Coca-Cola to you name the brand, as it moves around the world, that brand carries a value, and I think that's probably the largest component of this transaction.
All right. Well, let's take a quick look at the cattle markets. We've been telling this story. It's been low futures prices, relatively strong cash prices for live cattle. Give us your thoughts on what to expect here in the next week or so for cattle producers.
More sideways, I think. The market's just really a sluggish, kind of lethargic kind of a market, steady to just a little easier this week in live. In the futures market, pretty well sideways. Feeder cattle under pressure because of the loss of equity in the feeding operation. And a little stronger corn prices. So, but we think it's kind of the same. We see this continuing. Now, we may get a bump up here if we have a good Father's Day clearance, and we may get a little bit of help from that. But we really think that the cattle market is suffering from a sluggish U.S. economy and a high-priced product that is struggling in that environment.
Certainly, it's working hard to catch consumers with the record high beef prices we've been seeing.
It's hurt. That's just hurt. That combined with the economic situation in this country, that's hurt us.
Continue to be bearish. Well, thank you so much, John. Appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you, Mike.
That wraps up this edition of Market to Market. But if you'd like more information from John on where these markets just may be headed, visit the Market Plus page at our website. You'll find expanded market analysis, audio podcasts, and streaming video of our program, as well as links to our Twitter feed and Facebook account, all free at the Market to Market website. Be sure to join us again next week when we'll examine the impact of drought on cattle producers in Colorado. So until next time, thanks for watching. I'm Mike Pearson. Have a great week.
Market to Market is a production of Iowa Public Television, which is solely responsible for its content. Funding for Market to Market is provided by DuPont Pioneer, working with growers to match the right product to the right acre. Science with service, delivering success.